What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the fourth album by Fall Out Boy. Basically, this project is called Folie, and basically this project is called Folie, and it came out in the late fall of 2008. So this is a particular hit album here. I definitely feel like this is one of Fall Out Boy's best. I'd have to say I did appreciate From Under the Cork Tree back when I reviewed that in early 2022, and I also appreciated Infinity on High from when I reviewed that in the summer of 2022. I would have to suppose later in that particular year as far as that pitch can happen with it. But it's been a while since I touched base with Fall Out Boy. I definitely want to get back to some of these just because I do remember possibly like a hit or two off this particular album. I mean, this was particularly large for a huge lead single, just like typical Fall Out Boy days as far as that pitch can happen. Infinity on High from 2007 was a big deal around that particular time with songs like Thanks for the Memories and some of their highest charting hits, I'd have to say. A little bit larger than From Under the Cork Tree, had a little bit more singles. From Under the Cork Tree had hits like Sugar We're Going Down and Dance Dance, some of those particular type hits, but it didn't quite, just because that was their initial album to blow up, it didn't have as many full-blown hits, but it did have at least 3 hit singles, which were pretty good. I think the 16 Candles song was pretty good also. That's a pretty nice one. A little less talk, a little bit more. 16 it's the third single from Under the Cork Tree, I'd have to say. And then Infinity on High was a big deal back in the summer of 2007. And then Infinity on High was a big deal throughout 2007. So this is a follow-up album to that. Particularly did some pretty large stuff, I'd have to say. In particular, did like this one. It's pretty high, graceful type album here. Definitely had Definitely a pretty high, graceful type album here, I'd have to suppose. In particular, did appreciate the fare about this particular one. Definitely a pretty graceful type album, I would have to say. In particular, just a high enough pitch that this really feels like one of Fall Out Boy's best. It has a lot more bass promotion about it, just despite the fact that these singles didn't charge heavily as they did in 2005 and 2007. But the lead single is full blown excellent. That's definitely one of Fall Out Boy's best hits. Definitely a career highlight for Fall Out Boy, I would have to say. In particular, pretty good pitch to get that one as far as that pitch kind of happens with it. Just some great stuff here as far as that kind of goes. Just I'd say this is a pretty good punk album just within that relative sense. Takes it back to typical kind of fare. Maybe not quite as makeshift and work prone as like Infinity on High, but it definitely has the bops on here. This is definitely this is like taking songs like Dance Dance and some of those type tunes and Thanks for the Memories, where Thanks for the Memories was kind of like a dance type tune, just in a makeshift kind of sense. Some of those type pitches are just getting, I mean, this is a beefing kind of album, just within the sense of just having a lot of outing fare. Has restaurant music for date night and things like that. Has some good dance type music, nightclub type music. Just has some almost kind of R&B tinge type stuff. I mean, it's not R&B, it's pop rock, but it's just kind of the concept of a lot of this. This feels like songs that like Usher would do, or some of those type folks. Neo would do some of those type pitches, just within like a relative kind of electro, kind of R&B type sense, just within that sort of pitch. It's excellent stuff. I definitely appreciate that concept. It's a pretty social album overall, and this is probably going to get a 10 out of 10 in terms of the social score. I'd say just because this full blown album just is full of outing type hits as far as that kind of goes. Definitely, if you like songs like Dance Dance, it definitely has that. Now, it doesn't have as much summer haze like the song Sugar We're Going Down. That's kind of a hit song that just was not replicated on here. I felt like it might have been on Infinity on High. I don't remember that album quite as full blown. I need to listen to that one more, but I would have to say Dance Dance is definitely replicated, and a little bit of Thanks for the Memory, some of those type pitches. Just has a good concept, but this is a good burst of some energy here just within this particular album. And Folie à Deux, if you're wondering what Folie à Deux stands for, that's French for madness for two, as far as that particular pitch kind of has a good enough concept. We get that in particular, just a good concept within that. So we'll go ahead and talk about the singles here. Some great stuff. Just really do appreciate the sound. It's going to get a pretty rave score, I'd have to say. The first single is I Don't Care. This is a nice one. This is a pounding kind of night venue boiler. I'd have to say this is a great summer energy that this song particularly kind of has. And this is just a raucous kind of turn up fun, I would have to say. And this is just a stellar lead single. Definitely appreciate this one quite a bit. Just an excellent kind of song. This is just an excellent kind of song and rave hit single to kind of get from Fall Out Boy. This outstrips some of Fall Out Boy's best. I would have to say this is just a real jivey type one. This outstrips like Dance Dance, some of those type tunes. Thanks for the Memories. It's too bad that this song didn't outchart those songs on the particular radio, but this was a big enough deal on the Billboard 100. Definitely a crossover single that did a lot of damage. Just a real affable type one. Energy is really infectious, catchy. The chorus is great on here. This particular kind of career highlight for Fall Out Boy. Definitely appreciate this one. The thing about it is, the rest of the singles are good as well. Just because the rest of these singles don't chart quite as heavily, I would still have to say this is a pretty excellent album. So I just would say, just because the energy doesn't match, I Don't Care, doesn't mean that the rest of the singles aren't as good. This kind of concept. But America's Sweethearts is the second single. America's Sweethearts is the second single. This is like a boppish, kind of hazy It's like a boppish kind of hazy date evening times, I would have to say in particular. Definitely some date night kind of music as far as that pitch kind of happens with it. It's just some restaurant music I would definitely feel like in day commerce, I would have to say. And it's a pretty civil song, but it's a fun song just within that pitch. So it's kind of just for like more graceful type tunes, maybe prom type music, stuff like that. Just kind of outing type fair, just looking a little bit more tuxedoed up and things like that. Just a relative kind of pitch. Doesn't have to be as full blown, but just kind of a little bit more graceful, just with a little bit, not quite as raucous as songs like I Don't Care and Head First Slide into Copperstown on a Bad Bed, I would have to suppose. It's kind of the concept of some of those. I feel like I Don't Care and Head First Slider. I feel like I Don't Care and Head First Slider kind of the more raucous type ones that just kind of have a lot more nightclub and dance club type energy. But America's Sweetheart's just a little bit more kind of composed and just has the composition and just like some good kind of graceful outing as far as that pitch can have. It's just a little bit more civil. Do you like that one? I just think the energy kind of switched the tones. I mean, even with rock albums, this tends to happen in certain pitches. I think this is kind of the concept. I think, obviously the energy was pretty riled up with I Don't Care, and then this one kind of switches the tempo, but it pulled it off. It's this kind of concept. It was just more of like a rock chart kind of hit, I'd have to say. Head First Slide. Head First Slide into Cooperstown on a Bad Bed is the third single. We'll just refer to it as Head First Slide for quicker reference, I'd have to say. This is like a jivey kind of nightclub bounce of a song, I'd have to say. This is a good companion with I Don't Care, I would definitely feel like, and this is just a great dance pop, and it's pretty thrilling, I'd have to say. Yeah, Head First Slide is pretty thrilling, I'd have to say. Definitely glad that there was another nightclub song just within this particular type fare, because it's not super common that rock bands kind of do nightclub and dance club type music just within that wholesome kind of pitch. I would have just within that wholesome pitch, I'd kind of have to suppose, but it is a pretty good concept. Definitely appreciate these ones quite a bit. There's it's one good 1-2 punch. I Don't Care, Head First Slide. Definitely some excellent type ones to kind of get this, some thrilling type times. Even if I Don't Care is the more affable type one, it's too bad that Head First Slide didn't catch on more, I would have to suppose. It's kind of the concept. I think the title is a little bit unaffable as far as that pitch can have. It's a good song, but I just kind of question. I mean, I think most folks probably just refer to it as Head First Slide, I'd have to say. But it's kind of like with Panic at the Disco's early days, where they kind of had some lengthy titles and stuff like that. I want to say that Fall Out Boy did that too. I remember some certain pitches off of From Under the Cork Tree that kind of did that, but it's just kind of the concept. Vintage kind of Fall Out Boy as far as that pitch can have. It's just too bad the song didn't chart heavier, because it is a nice one. It's definitely a good 1-2 punch. Just works in an excellent sense for that sort of concept, just getting some of these outing type fares. Just some excellent stuff. And then What a Catch, Donnie's the fourth single. Now, this is kind of an almost song for me. I do like this song, but it's just kind of a little bit more down. It's just kind of a little bit more relaxed and down tempo within that pitch. It's a good song, but it's just kind of the concept. It's just here and there. So this is kind of a moody, emo, kind of defeated tune. I would have supposed just defeated in like its tone and pitch as far as that particular pitch kind of goes. But then its tone and pitch as far as that particularly happens with it. This is just a good 2 p.m. kind of bar tune. This is just a good kind of 2 o'clock p.m. kind of bar tune. I would have to say just some depressed kind of moody type vibes. I would have to suppose just kind of a mellow. The song just has some mellow vibes. The tone is kind of halfway catchy about it, but it's just kind of the concept of just how oftenly you would listen to it. It's just kind of the concept. If you're not kind of more depressed and down in the dumps, which I do like some of these kind of moody and glum type songs just within a relative. I do like some of these moody and glum type songs just within a relative pitch. But I would have to say it's just kind of one. I don't know. It's kind of. I mean, it's kind of peppy and like the chorus and stuff like that. And towards the end of the song, starts getting a little bit more rage. Starts getting a little bit more riveting just within that pitch. But I don't know. Just the energy. It was kind of here and there. I liked it somewhat, but it's just kind of. I just kind of felt like some folks just pull off the moody type vibe a little bit better. Panic at the Disco probably could have pulled that vibe off a little bit better just within the pitch. I mean, it's kind of like it's a defeated song. It's not so much like an emo type song as much as it's just kind of a defeated where you're at the bar in the afternoon, you're just drunk and you're kind of malaise, stuff like that. Just kind of depressed and down in the dumps, some of those type pitches as far as that kind of goes along with it. But it's just kind of the concept that just kind of one of those ones where the pep does kind of sink in, but it's just kind of the concept. I don't know. It just didn't somehow. I feel like there's other emo bands that probably could have pulled this off better. Not to say this is a bad song, but just didn't have the full blown electricity as far as that pitch can have. So, I mean, I do like the kind of defeated type tones. It's an interesting concept, just kind of that deflated type tune. Maybe you just had bad day at work, something like that, bad day in class, some of those type pitches. It's kind of a song to go post up at a bar or something like that. Just some of those type pitches, but it's just kind of. I don't know. It's kind of a halfway victory, I suppose. It's kind of concept. It's just kind of one where I would listen to it, but I just don't know how commonly I would, like a shuffle or something like that. That's this kind of thing. So the promotion of this album lasted for over a year. Basically, this album came out in late 2008 and it lasted into like the late summer of 2009. So it was a pretty good promotion for a while. And then plus the promotion for the album started in late summer of 2008. So it's a pretty good pitch to get that. But this particular album has 13 songs on there. And out of those 13, I wound up recommending to you 9.5. So we'll go ahead and recommend those 9.5 songs. Basically, the 9.5 songs would be I Don't Care, America's Sweethearts, Head First Slide, She's My Winona, the Ship Gold Standard, 27, Tiffany Blues, Whams, West Coast Smoker, and the almost song is What a Catch Donnie. So basically, some of these restaurant and out on the town type tunes work pretty well. I'd have to suppose in particular 27 is a nice one for that. It's like a good evening thrills of a song. I'd have to say it's like a getting ready to step out kind of jive. I would have to say grab a quick bite to eat and kind of enjoy the city kind of commute. I'd have to suppose about that particular one. It's kind of a typical kind of just album cut that just works pretty well for like some outing sense. It's kind of an on the town type tune. It's kind of some good commerce just within an evening sense. This works within that sense. It's maybe just got done with the restaurant type fare, some of those type pitches as far as that kind of goes. Just some good songs like that. I'd say that 27 would be a good pairing with America's Sweetheart, some of those type pitches. Another one like that would kind of be She's My Winona. She's My Winona is kind of a bustling evening activity song. I'd have to say this works well with America's Sweethearts, like I was saying, good concept for that in particular. And this is just a more busy but kind of social bounce of a song, I'd have to say. So just some of these are just some great restaurant type music, date night type fare, just within that relative pitch, just some outing type fare, just with the just out on the town kind of city bopping. Some of these type pitches work great with like Panic at the Disco, I would have to say, considering that I think Fallout, from what I remember, I think Fall Out Boy kind of found Panic at the Disco. They were on Panic at the Disco's label, so it's a good punch to get some of these type ones just for some after, some kind of late lunch and early dinner type fare, just within that relative pitch of just 6:30, 7:30 p.m. Some of those type pitches, so just like the evening activities and just social times. Not necessarily full blown dance club. I feel like America's Sweethearts, She's My Winona, and 27 are just kind of more just blue collar kind of recreational type stuff, just more civil type stuff. I feel like there are some nightclub songs on here. A vintage kind of Fall Out Boy song would be Tiffany Blues. This is a nice one. This is like a solid kind of house party type music, I'd have to say. It's like vintage dance like tune, I would have to say in particular. And this is a pretty good fraternized gem, I'd have to say. And this is just lively and contemporary, I would definitely feel like. So this is a nice one. Takes it back to the house party type fairs. I do realize that Fall Out Boy kind of advanced as albums went along, but it's good to get some of these retro type ones that are just for like more house party type fare and just more contemporary and like a residential type sense as far as that pitch kind of happens. Just some good concepts for that. Whams is a pretty nice one. This is an interesting song. I don't know what the Whams stands for. I looked up the lyrics to this particular song and I couldn't figure out what the WAMS stands for in particular. It's just an interesting type pitch for that. But this is like it's like some good kind of dance club music, I would have to say, in turn up. I would definitely feel like this is just a Kickstarter, I would definitely have to suppose. And this is just some mid-pace kind of energy, but it's a stock hit for like but this is like a stock hit for outing moments, I'd have to say in particular. So that's a nice one. West Coast Smokers, another highlight, I would have to say. This is like some evening turn up haze. I would definitely feel like in a good West Coast Smokers, kind of an in a good mood type song. I would definitely have to suppose pretty peppy type song to kind of get in this like a getting ready to get crunk type tune and just an out on the town kind of hit, I would suppose in particular. Just like the bustle of this particular one. A little bit more residential evening type fare. Could kind of be out on the town, but also kind of residential. Maybe just getting snackage, some stuff like that. Just getting like a 2 liter, some of those type pitches. Just getting ready to get like a bottle, like some Jack Daniels, something like that. Just a good kind of pitch. Just a good kind of pitch for some residential turn up, I'd have to suppose in particular. So that's a nice one. Then Ship Gold Standard. And then the Ship Gold Standard is a pretty nice one. This is a good out on the town kind of social fare, I'd have to say. This is like some city hopping kind of restaurant music, I would definitely feel like. And this is just good for some day commerce. So I feel like about this particular one, this is another one that kind of works with like She's My Winona, America's Sweethearts, 27, some of those type pitches. Just some good day type fare just within that relative concept. This could almost be like mall hopping type. Some of these songs could almost be like shopping mall and mall rat type music, I would have to say in particular. So that's a good concept. Get some of those just within that pitch, kind of similar to like just kind of typical like strip mall type tunes, I'd have to suppose. That's the concept of this particular album, I'd have to say. So basically me recommending 9.5 songs out of 13. It's pretty good pitch just to get some of those. So talk about the 3 songs on here that I didn't recommend just within that relative pitch. Just these 3 songs, just the disloyal order of Water Buffaloes was just kind of a poor type one that I just kind of, that one was trying to be like a summary type one, like Sugar We're Going Down from like the 2005 days of From Under the Cork Tree, but it just didn't pull off that vibe quite as well, I'd have to suppose. I mean, I feel like this album didn't really have like the summer boilers like From Under the Cork Tree. That album just was a little bit particularly more rompish and just stuff like that, just kind of backyard smoke sessions, some of those type pitches. But that one just was Disloyal Order of Water Buffaloes was just kind of a poor type one, just in like the summer sense, didn't really pull off the vibe. And then Coffees for Closers is just kind of another one that just was kind of an awkward type one, just within that relative pitch. Just didn't really like the affable, just didn't really appreciate the approach of that one in particular. It was just kind of one. Coffees for Closers was just kind of a day commerce and strip mall type music that just didn't pull off the vibe quite as well as it needed to. It was just kind of one that just didn't have quite as affable of energy, I'd have to suppose. And then $2 Nosebleed was just probably the one that had the worst instrumentation kind of on here, which is kind of a disappointment just because, I mean, it's a disappointment, but it's not a full blown disappointment. It's just one of the few songs that just wasn't quite up to snuff, I'd have to say in particular. Just kind of one, just didn't really like the production arrangements of that particular one. The band work on that one was just not quite as impressive, I have to say. It's just kind of a more kind of here and there, kind of hapless type. $20 Nosebleed was just kind of a here and there kind of workaday type one that just didn't pull off the energy. It was just kind of one that just didn't really have as much spark and interesting type energy as far as that pitch kind of went with it. But that's just kind of the concept. So basically, me recommending 9.5 songs out of 13 on this particular album. I'm going to go ahead and give this album like a 9 out of 10. This is just chock full of boisterous type hits for stepping out in this weekend type fare, restaurant type music, date night type music, this overall affable kind of energy. It can be in a summer sense, but it just kind of has like that nightlife type appeal that Panic at the Disco is so good at, just within that relative pitch. It's a very social album, tons of festivities just for stepping out. So I definitely appreciate this album quite a bit. Just packed to the gills. The singles are all good. I would have to say these pitches, this is basically Fall Out Boy at like their most boisterous. I think this album outstrips like Infinity on High, despite the fact that those singles off that particular album charted a little bit better. But I'd have to say every album they just had like some good hits on there. It's just kind of the concept they just managed to do it for a third time in a row. Not, I mean, their first album was good also, but the 2005, 7, and 8 albums just really had some charting hits just within that pitch. That's kind of the concept. But the social score, I'm going to go ahead and give the social score of this album like a 10 out of 10 because I feel like it just is that excellent just within that pitch. Plenty of songs like America's Sweethearts is some great date night type music. Same thing with She's My Winona. Some of those type ones. I Don't Care is like an excellent song. Like I said, this is like a career highlight for Fall Out Boy. Just a real excellent kind of affable energy. Just a great tone setting type song that does a lot of damage. I feel like Head First Slide is a good follow up to like I Don't Care, just within a good 1-2 punch, adding some dance club type music. There's just some excellent kind of ones on here. Tiffany Blues is a great house party type tune just within that pitch. Whams is a pretty nice one. West Coast Smokers, some good outing type fare for snackage and things like that. There's just some excellent type ones on here just within that relative pitch. Just some good evening and night type haze. Just some good evening and night type crunk type tunes that just have a lot of good excellence and just overall affability. That just has some great congregating type feels and frat type feels as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. So that's the concept. So basically, Fall Out Boy. In terms of the future, I don't know what Fall Out Boy's been up to. I'm gonna have to get back to some more of these albums just in particular. I'm gonna have to see. They do have a number of albums. I would have to say. I want to say that they dropped like an album in like March of 2023 or something like that. So there are some ones I'm gonna have to get to. And I have to see what the next one is after this particular one. I'm not really sure. I know at least about Fall Out Boy in the 2000s, but I'm gonna have to advance like the 2010s and see what they're up to around those pitches just to see how many hits they got in those particular days. But this is definitely some dope stuff here. 10 out of 10 social score. I'd have to say real social, affable type, congregating type album. And the singles are great on this particular album. This is an excellent album. And I do recommend it quite a bit.